Hi class, this is Professor Barry Brennan. I'm back again and we're going to go into part 4 of diversity within the small group. Let's get straight to the PowerPoint. This is for my small group communication class. There we are. Okay, learning styles. I find this to be really interesting, because oftentimes we think of ourselves as there, or even in education, there's been one way of learning, right? So here we are doing online learning, and this doesn't have to be the only way you learn this. There are different ways you can go about helping you learn the material. It doesn't have to be just through this video. You can apply this video and do different things. But let's talk about how we learn differently. And learn means to gain knowledge and understanding about something. So how do we do that? There's going to be 6 different ways that we do that. So let's take a look. And think about where you stand with that. So we have visual learners, kinesthetic learners, concrete experience learners, reflective observation learners, abstract conceptualization learners, and active experimentation learners. Those are the names we have. Now, what I want you to keep in mind is you can have more than one way to learn. These are not like, you're not categorized and that's it. You can't learn any other way. But we as people will have a tendency to be a certain way, have a certain lean toward a certain area that will be more predominant in the way we learn. We're going to look at these individually. So if you're a visual learner, you start to comprehend and understand things by looking at them, right? By what you see. You might even have a photographic memory. Okay, so the visual world, we live in a very visual world. So oftentimes we're taught very visually, in fact, but it's changed a lot, because I think when we were in the classroom, a lot of it had to do with you listening, right? Focus on listening. But now we live in a very visual society with story and videos and using all of that. So if you're a visual learner, this is the bomb for you, right? Because there's a lot of visual ways that we're teaching now that we didn't do before. PowerPoints, think about it. And there's just if you're young, you don't know the difference, but I know the difference. It's a lot different than it used to be. We didn't have PowerPoints. Nobody was doing that when I was an undergrad. So diagrams, images, drawings, all of those help you to remember things. Maybe even remember that. Maybe you remember a photograph and then it links to your memory of the material of it. Okay, that's what we mean by visual learners. So you kind of, in your mind, visually, you make connections. And I am a visual learner. I'll make connections with, if I can remember visually what it was, and then I'll remember what's associated with it. You'll make an association through things that are visual. Again, keeping in mind how we're different in the group. If you're what we call kinesthetic, which reminds me of like kinesiology, it means you process your information through touch. So you need to physically transform the information to something that's touchable for you. You need to do that. Now, how do you do that in a communication course? That's a good question. I have to really think about that one. I don't have an answer for you right on, in my mind. But there's a way that you can draw a relationship with things that are real, right? In terms of touching, in terms of communicating. This might even be that you're more of a nonverbal communicator, right? This could go into, in interpersonal, I teach love languages. Maybe you're a person that's very touchy, very feely. But the way you'll understand something, you literally need to touch it. This could be also the person who likes to read a real book rather than look at it online. You want to touch it. So this means we're looking again at primary ways we learn. It doesn't mean that there's not pieces of you that learn all these different ways. Okay. So think about that. In fact, in days before we had so much visual learning that we do now, we had more, it was more kinesthetic. It was more like things that were touched. We had the book, right? Things that we could touch. Okay. Concrete experience learner, reflective observation learner. They kind of sound the same, but they're not. So that concrete experience learner, that's a person who learns by practicing and doing. That's how they learn it. This repetitive kind of practicing and doing, practicing and doing, practicing and doing, practicing and doing. People that are chefs, people that are mechanics, practicing and doing, concrete experience learner. You can't show them and have them mimic what you did. They need to do it to understand how it works. Practicing and doing. Reflective observation is the opposite. They gain experience. They can watch something and reflect on it. Okay, that's how they learn. They don't have to have their hands in it. They gain their own understanding and comprehension about things by thinking about it. Maybe they're like really people that are more in their head, and reflecting about it. That's how they come to understand it. Last two. We have what we call abstract conceptualization learner, and we have active experimentation learner. Now the active experimentation learner, I'm gonna go to that one first. It kind of sounds like that concrete one, right? The concrete experience. It is kind of similar, but not exact. So active experimentation means these are the folks that like to experiment to find out how things work, right? They want to I've known people like that, like the mechanical engineers. They're the kids that pull things apart and put them back together. They want to see how everything works together and how everything matches up and what works and what makes this tick. And that's the active experimentation learner. They're the engineers that are like mechanical engineers, people that want to pull things apart, electrical engineers. They want to see through finding how things go together. That's how they learn. Now, abstract conceptualization, similar to that reflective observation, but more solitary, right? They learn by reading something. They can learn by picking up a book and reading it and figuring out for themselves how something works. It's probably, of all the ways of learning, this is the most solitary form of learning. So they literally can pick something up and say, okay, I can figure out how to do this. Now, I'm going to give you an example of, like, for me, how I can tell I'm not one of those people. I like to paint. You can't see any of my paintings behind me right now, but I like to paint and I like to draw. And I'm pretty good at, I can look at something and draw it. I'm not too bad at doing that at all. But I want to draw people. Now, that's a whole other thing for me. And so I took a drawing class. I can't just take it from a book. You're a kind of person, if you're an abstract conceptualization learner, you can take a book and learn from it without taking a class or have someone instruct you, or being like someone like a concrete experience learner. That's someone who takes a drawing class. So I recently, I don't know, it's probably a year ago now, before COVID, I took a drawing class to help me conceptualize how to put like a person's body together and understand it. He was teaching in terms of these circles. Those of you who know how to draw know what I'm talking about. I'd never taken a drawing class, but I need that. It's not enough for me to look at the book and figure it out. I mean, I don't really have the patience for that. I rather learn through actually doing. There's the concrete experience learner, right? Learning through doing, practicing and doing. So just knowing that about yourself, what kind of learning you are, will help you then understand who you're working with. What kind of process is that person? If you have an abstract conceptualization learner and they say, you know what, I need to just go away and think about this, or not even that. Maybe they're the reflective observation learner. That's probably more likely you're going to have in your group. Someone who says, I need to think about it. I'm not ready to decide. I need to think about it. I need to reflect on it. That's their process. So understanding all these processes and the diversity within your small group is going to help you in your communication and help you in your patience with each other, right? And understanding and empathy with each other. So I'm going to leave you with that. I hope it was a good lecture. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you soon, and have a very wonderful rest of your day. Take care.